You need to be finishing up with your Chapter 9 vocabulary. You should have done 7, 8, 9 by the end of the week. Chapter 9, mortal, grimacing, affectionately, superiority, menace, conformity, stifled, leery, contempt, contracted, and agony. Have we already seen contempt? No? I thought we'd already had it in one of our other words. All right, time's up. Let's get to reading. We are in Chapter 9 on page, can anyone find it? No, we're looking at the beginning of Chapter 9. We're in the middle. We're on page 140. 140. People are being what? Okay. That's enough. Thank you. Help your friends. Now we are down at the bottom. Hey, Curtis. Hey, Curtis. Tim yelled, and I jumped. 3, 2, 1.
Tim yelled. I jumped. Which one? I heard Soda yell back. The big one. Come on over here. The guy from Bromley looked at me. What did I tell you? I watched Derry going toward Tim and the leader of the Bromley boys. He shouldn't be here, I thought suddenly. I shouldn't be here, and Steve shouldn't be here, and Soda shouldn't be here, and Two-Bit shouldn't be here. We're greasers, but not hoods, and we don't belong with this bunch of future convicts. We could end up like them, I thought. We could. And the thought didn't help my headache. I went back to stand with Soda and Steve and Two-Bit then, because the Socias were arriving. Right on time. They came in 4 carloads and filed out silently. I counted 22 of them. There were 20 of us, so I figured the odds were as even as we could get them. Derry always likes to take on 2 at a time anyway. They looked like they were all cut from the same piece of cloth. Clean-shaven with semi-beetle haircuts, wearing striped or checkered shirts with light red or tan-colored jackets or Madras ski jackets. They could just as easily have been going to the movies as to a rumble. That's why people don't ever think to blame the Socias and are always ready to jump on us. We look hoody, and they look decent. It could be just the other way around. Half of the hoods I know are pretty decent guys underneath all that grease. And from what I've heard, a lot of Socias are just cold-blooded mean. But people usually go by looks. They lined up silently, facing us, and we lined up facing them. I looked for Randy, but didn't see him. I hoped he wasn't there. A guy with a Madras shirt stepped up. Let's get the rules straight. Nothing but our fists, and the first to run, lose, right? Tim flipped away his beer can. You savvy real good. There was an uneasy silence. Who was going to start it? Derry solved the problem. He stepped forward under the circle of light made by the street lamp. For a minute, everything looked unreal, like a scene out of a J.D. movie or something. Then Derry said, I'll take on anyone. He stood there, tall, broad-shouldered, his muscles taut under his T-shirt and his eyes glittering like ice. For a second, it looked like there wasn't anyone brave enough to take him on. Then there was a slight stir in the faceless mob of Socias, and a husky blond guy stepped forward. He looked at Derry and said quietly, Hello, Darryl. Something flickered behind Derry's eyes, and then they were ice again. Hello, Paul. I heard Soda give a kind of squeak, and I realized that the blonde was Paul Holden. He had been the best halfback on Derry's football team at high school, and he and Derry used to buddy it around all the time. He must be a junior in college by now, I thought. He was looking at Derry with an expression I couldn't quite place, but disliked. Contempt? Pity? Hate? All three? Why? Because Derry was standing there representing all of us, and maybe Paul felt only contempt and pity and hate for greasers? Derry hadn't moved a muscle or changed expression, But you could see he hated Paul now. It wasn't only jealousy. Derry had a right to be jealous. He was ashamed to be on our side, ashamed to be seen with the Bromley boys, Shepard's gang, maybe even us. Nobody realized it but me and Soda. It didn't matter to anyone but me and Soda. That's stupid, I thought swiftly. They've both come here to fight, and they're both supposed to be smarter than that. What difference does the side make? Then Paul said, "I'll take you." And something like a smile crossed Derry's face. I knew Derry had thought he could take Paul any time, but that was 2 or 3 years ago. What if Paul was better now? I swallowed. Neither one of my brothers had ever been beaten in a fight, but I wasn't exactly itching for someone to break the record. They moved in a circle under the light, counterclockwise, eyeing each other, sizing each other up, maybe remembering old faults and wondering if they were still there. The rest of us waited with mounting tension. I was reminded of Jack London's books, you know, where the wolf pack waits in silence for one of 2 members to go down in a fight. But it was different here. The moment either one swung a punch, the rumble would be on. The silence grew heavier, and I could hear the harsh, heavy breathing of the boys around me. Still, Derry and the Soch walked slowly in a circle. Even I could feel their hatred. They used to be buddies, I thought. They used to be friends, and now they hate each other because one has to work for a living and the other comes from the West Side. They shouldn't hate each other. I don't hate the Soches anymore. They shouldn't hate... "Hold up!" a familiar voice yelled. "Hold it!" Derry turned to see who it was, and Paul swung, a hard right to the jaw that would have felled anyone but Derry. The rumble was on. Dallas Winston ran to join us. I couldn't find a Soch my size, so I took the next best size and jumped on him. Dallas was right beside me, already on top of someone. "I thought you were in the hospital," I yelled as the Soch knocked me to the ground and I rolled to avoid getting kicked. "I was." Dally was having a hard time because his left arm was still in bad shape. "I ain't now." "How?" I managed to ask as the Soch I was fighting leaped on top of me and we rolled near Dally. "Talk the nurse into it with 2-bit switch. Don't you know a rumble ain't a rumble unless I'm in it?" I couldn't answer because the Soch, who was heavier than I took him for, had pinned me and was slugging the sense out of me. I thought dizzily that he was going to knock some of my teeth loose or break my nose or something, and I knew I didn't have a chance. But Derry was keeping an eye out for me. He caught that guy by the shoulder and half lifted him up before knocking him 3 feet with a sledgehammer blow. I decided it would be fair for me to help Dally since he could only use one arm. They were slugging it out, but Dallas was getting the worst of it, so I jumped on his Soch's back, pulling his hair and pounding him. He reached back and caught me by the neck and threw me over his head to the ground. Tim Shepard, who was fighting 2 at once, accidentally stepped on me, knocking my breath out. I was up again as soon as I got my wind and jumped right back on the Soch, trying my best to strangle him. While he was prying my fingers loose, Dally knocked him backward so that all 3 of us rolled on the ground, gasping, cussing, and punching. Somebody kicked me hard in the ribs, and I yelped in spite of myself. Some Soch had knocked out one of our bunch and was kicking me as hard as he could, but I had both arms wrapped around the other Soch's neck and refused to let go. Dally was slugging him, and I hung on desperately, although that other Soch was kicking me, and you'd better believe it hurt. Finally, he kicked me in the head so hard it stunned me, and I lay limp, trying to clear my mind and keep from blacking out. I could hear the racket, but only dimly through the buzzing in my ears. Numerous bruises along my back and on my face were throbbing, but I felt detached from the pain, as if it wasn't really me feeling it. "They're running!" I heard a voice yell joyfully. "Look at the dirty Soches run!" It seemed to me that the voice belonged to 2-Bit, but I couldn't be sure. I tried to sit up and saw that the Soches were getting into their cars and leaving. Tim Shepard was swearing blue and green because his nose was broken again, and the leader of the Bromley boys was working over one of his own men because he had broken the rules and used a piece of pipe in the fighting. Steve lay doubled up and groaning about 10 feet from me. We found out later he had 3 broken ribs. Soda Pop was beside him, talking in a low, steady voice. I did a double take when I saw Two-Bit. Blood was streaming down one side of his face, and one hand was busted wide open, but he was grinning happily because the Socs were running. "We won," Derry announced in a tired voice. He was going to have a black eye, and there was a cut across his forehead. "We beat the Socs." Dally stood beside me quietly for a minute, trying to grasp the fact that we had really beaten the Socs. Then, grabbing my shirt, he hauled me to my feet. "Come on!" He half dragged me down the street. "We're going to see Johnny." I tried to run but stumbled, and Dally impatiently shoved me along. "Hurry! He was getting worse when I left. He wants to see you." I don't know how Dallas could travel so fast and hard after being knocked around and having his sore arm hurt some more, but I tried to keep up with him. Track wasn't ever like the running I did that night. I was still dizzy and had only a dim realization of where I was going and why. Dally had Buck Merrill's T-Bird parked in front of our house, and we hopped into it. I sat tight as Dally roared the car down the street. We were on 10th when a siren came on behind us, and I saw the reflection of the red light flashing in the windshield. "Look sick," Dally commanded. "I'll say I'm taking you to the hospital, which'll be truth enough." I leaned against the cold glass of the window and tried to look sick, which wasn't too hard, feeling the way I did right then. The policeman looked disgusted. "All right, buddy, where's the fire?" "The kid." Dally jerked a thumb toward me. "He fell over on his motorcycle, and I'm taking him to the hospital." I groaned, and it wasn't all fake out. I guess I looked pretty bad, too, being cut and bruised like I was. The fuzz changed his tone. "Is he real bad? Do you need an escort?" "How would I know if he's bad or not? I ain't no doc." "Yeah, we could use an escort." And as the policeman got back into his car, I heard Dally hiss, "Sucker." With the siren ahead of us, we made record time getting to the hospital. All the way there, Dally kept talking and talking about something, but I was too dizzy to make out most of it. "I was crazy, you know that, kid? Crazy for wanting Johnny to stay out of trouble, for not wanting him to get hard. If he'd been like me, he'd never have been in this mess. If he'd got smart like me, he'd never have run into that church. That's what you get for helping people. Editorials in the paper are in a lot of trouble. You better wise up, Pony. You get tough like me and you don't get hurt. You look out for yourself and nothing can touch you." He said a lot more stuff, but I didn't get it all. I had a stupid feeling that Dally was out of his mind, the way he kept raving on, because Dallas never talked like that. But I think now I would have understood if I hadn't been sick at the time. The cop left us at the hospital as Dally pretended to help me out of the car. The minute the cop was gone, Dally let go of me so quick I almost fell. "Hurry!" We ran through the lobby and crowded past people into the elevator. Several people yelled at us, I think because we were pretty racked up looking, but Dally had nothing on his mind except Johnny, and I was too mixed up to know anything but that I had to follow Dally. When we finally got to Johnny's room, the doctor stopped us. "I'm sorry, boys, but he's dying." "We gotta see him," Dallas said, and flicked out Two-Bit's switchblade. His voice was shaking. "We're gonna see him, and if you give me any static, you'll end up on your own operating table." The doctor didn't bat an eye. "You can see him, but it's because you're his friends, not because of that knife." Dally looked at him for a second, then put the knife back in his pocket. We both went into Johnny's room, standing there for a second, getting our breath back in heavy gulps. It was awful quiet. It was scary quiet. I looked at Johnny. He was very still, and for a moment I thought in agony, he's dead already. We're too late. Dally swallowed, wiping the sweat off his upper lip. "Johnny Cake?" he said in a hoarse voice. "Johnny?" Johnny stirred weakly, then opened his eyes. "Hey," he managed softly. "We won," Dally panted. "We beat the Socs. We stomped them, chased them out of our territory." Johnny didn't even try to grin at him. Useless. Fighting's no good. He was awful white. Dally licked his lips nervously. They're still writing editorials about you in the paper for being a hero and all? He was talking too fast and too calmly. Yeah, they're calling you a hero now and heroizing all the greasers. We're all proud of you, buddy. Johnny's eyes glowed. Dally was proud of him. That was all Johnny had ever wanted. Pony boy, I barely heard him. I came closer and leaned over to hear what he was going to say. Stay gold, Pony boy. Stay gold. The pillow seemed to sink a little, and Johnny died. You read about people looking peacefully asleep when they're dead, but they don't. Johnny just looked dead, like a candle with the flame gone. I tried to say something, but I couldn't make a sound. Dally swallowed and reached over to push Johnny's hair back. Never could keep that hair back. That's what you get for trying to help people, you little punk. That's what you get. Whirling suddenly, he slammed back against the wall. His face contracted in agony and sweat streamed down his face. Damn it, Johnny, he begged, slamming one fist against the wall, hammering it to make it obey his will. Oh, damn it, Johnny, don't die. Please don't die. He suddenly bolted through the door and down the hall.
I know, so what are y'all thinking? I know, right? It's so sad. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to, first they're like, I'm going to cry. I know, it makes everyone like, no, Johnny. You have that feeling, which the author really did a good job of making you feel that. The way he whirled suddenly and slammed back against the wall, his face contorted in agony and sweat streaming down his face, and he's so upset. You just have that feeling. Not only did the narrator really help it along, because if he'd have just kept reading at the same pace he was reading, but what did he do? He slowed down. He started reading slower because it helped you to feel that time was slowing down and about to stop for Johnny. Okay, let's look at our... It's not ending like that. All right, let's look up here. Our reflection. You should have your self-assessment sheet glued in. First part, summary. Second part is reading strategy, predictions, inferencing, connection, visualization. All right, which one did you do while you were reading? Just choose one. It should only be 1 to 2 sentences long. And then the last part is your opinion of the book so far. Now, let's do a little review. Chapter 7 was at the hospital. They're talking to the reporters, and then there's nothing else they can do, so they have to head home. Chapter 8, the next morning, the gang shows up. Hey, listen to this. Look at all this report in the newspaper. You guys are heroes. And then he realizes, Ponyboy realizes, that they might also get sent to a boys' home. They might get split up, but they're going to have to go to court to figure that out. That day, as they're walking through town, who stops him? Randy. And he stops him because he wants to say, hey, listen, I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to do this. Fighting is just dumb. We're not going to do it. Which seems to be a recurring thing. In chapter 7, he, let's see, 7, or what is it? He asked them, he says there's no good reason for fighting, ever. All right, Randy says, I don't want to fight. I don't want to do that. It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to change. Then later, Ponyboy asks the whole gang, why do you fight? Why do you fight? Why do you fight? And he says, unless it's self-defense, there's really no good reason to fight. All right, and then here at the end in chapter 9, Johnny finishes with, fighting doesn't do any good. All right, there's no good that comes of it. So it's continually coming back that stay gold, that's part of our poem. Yes. All right, the gold is, nature's first green is gold. It's that newness of life, that new feeling. That staying innocent, staying new, staying young in your spirit, in your mind, and he tells him to stay new. All right, don't get hard, don't get changed, like Dally kept saying he should have done. All right, what I want you to do is get your all right. In your reflection journal. Get your table of contents filled out, please. How are you feeling about the book so far? The Outsiders, of course, our author is S.E. Hinton, and this is chapters 7 through 9. Now, you may, at this point, may not even like, oh, this is so sad. I had just a sad face and tears. Even though I still think the book is good, it's sad. All right, this is just a sad point. Hmm? Okie dokie. Got that down. Let's move on over. Make sure your sheet is glued in. I'm going to give you just a moment to get your stuff. Really? To get your stuff glued in down here. Remember, you need to get your before my entry taken care of right away, so you have all yeses in that column. And I'm going to give you 10 minutes to write your summary. If you need a little help looking back, I've written over here on the board, chapter 7, 8, and 9, the outline of what happened in the chapters. Title the text. All right, what do we have? Always, always. We put the date, the title. There you go. Thank you. Get this at the top. Now I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes. You should only use about 5, but I'm going to give you 10 just in case you need a couple extra, to write your summary of the chapters. Okay? Is Johnny going to have a funeral? Well, I'd assume they're not just going to leave him in the hospital rotting away, right? They could cremate him. That would be feasible. You think they just cremate him? Like the old Vikings of the old days, they put him on a big mountain of logs and the pyre and they burn him up? No. Ready. I'm going to start the timer. Are we ready to go? All right, I started out with, talked you through the summary. I also started mine with chapter 7 through 9 of The Outsiders. It's very dynamic, which it is. Chapter 9 is the climax of the story. Johnny's death is the climactic moment. That point that changes the main character forever. Because who's our main character? Ponyboy, yes. So, 10 minutes, go. You're wasting your time. Go. It's fine. Tacos are great. Focus on your summary. Remember, you're hitting just the high points. What is the main events that happened in the story? At the end of the book? Yes. 2 days, yeah. Four. Yes. Keep going. Yeah. Mm. 3 minutes. You can go ahead and start to the next one. If you're done, go ahead to the next. If you're done with your summary, move on down to your strategy. If just one time I could get all the way through a reflection without having to stop and rewrite and mark things out, then consider my handwriting good. I always end up self-assessing that my handwriting is yes and no easy to read, because some parts are and some parts aren't. All right, 15 seconds. Make sure you're not just marking all yeses. You're checking to make sure that you've actually done those things, which you couldn't have done because you're still not on to part 2 and 3. All right, I'll read you mine, and then I'm going to get one of you guys to read yours, please. Chapter 7 through 9 of The Outsiders are very dynamic. Pony Boy Johnny and Dally are at the hospital. Pony and his brothers talk to the reporters and are made into heroes, which is, remember he said, y'all didn't just turn heroes, you've been heroes. So, in the next day's newspaper, they were made into heroes in the next day's newspaper. The next day, Two-Bit and Pony are walking when Randy stops Pony and wants to talk. Randy says that fighting won't change anything, and he won't show up. At the Rumble, a lot of people get hurt, but the Greasers win. Dally and Pony make it back to the hospital just in time to see Johnny die. Dallas loses it and runs out. All right. He lost his temper. The strategy that I used is visualization. I could really feel Dally's anger when the author said he whirled suddenly and he slammed his back against the wall. And my explanation of my thinking was that Dally just wanted to get away. I just knew that he was so upset he just had to back up and just get away and get out. This part of the book always makes me want to cry. It's just so sad. All right, who wants to go? Who's ready to read their summary? Who wants to read their summary? No. Just sit down. When you're ready, go ahead.
In The Outsiders, chapter 7 to 9, it is very sad. First, they save the kid out of the burning church and get injured. Pony Boy just has a few bad burns and probably a concussion. Dally burnt one arm, but is okay, but Johnny broke his back in a bourbon battle. The next day, Two-Bit and Pony go to check on Johnny, and Johnny passes out cold. The entire Rumble, Dally shows up and the Greasers beat the Socials, and Dally takes Pony Boy to see Johnny, but Johnny dies.
Okay, it's important that you step on everybody leaves, okay? Very good. Anybody else want to go? Here, always mute it so it doesn't make a big noise. Anybody else want to go? Come on. You know, Macy, I look at all this beautiful writing. You didn't go last time, did you? You did? I was thinking there were several people already. You did? Did we all get to go? Because usually you guys get to go. All right, one more person, and then we'll put up for the day. All right, well, while he's finishing that up, someone tell me what was your reading strategy? Macy, what was your reading strategy? Shh, I'm talking to Mace. You inferencing. So you took what you knew and what happened in the story and came together to make a conclusion. Yes. All right, what was yours? Visualization. You visualize. What is your visualization? What did you visualize in the story? Okay, and what did you wrote specifically that made us know that Johnny died? Or, okay. Yes. Deja. Visualization. A lot of visualization in this one, exactly. When there's a lot of physical activity in the story, it's easy to visualize. You ready? Are you ready? Thank you.
Chapter 7 through 9 of The Outsiders is the climactic point in the story. Pawnee, Joni, and Dally are all at the hospital. They talk to the reporters and then they head home. Pony and Soda Pop might get sent to a boys' home wait, no, that's wrong.
That's right. Pony and Soda could get sent to a boys' home.
Later that day, Randy tells Pony that he isn't going to the Rumble. The next day, everyone gets ready for the Rumble. When it's over, Dally takes Pony to the hospital and makes it just in time to see Johnny die.
Okay, I didn't finish it. That's fine. Yes, all right. Remember, change this guy to Pony.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, good job, Day. All right, let's get stuff cleaned up, and we will take our test tomorrow over 7 through 9.